A story in Prabhupada in Delhi where someone was really challenging Prabhupada in front of 20,000 people. And Prabhupada was explaining spiritual knowledge can only be transmitted when you inquire submissively, not when you're challenging. But at the same time, Prabhupada could defeat all challenges as well. And he's given us the tools to do so. A real speaker of Sanatana Dharma does it not to defeat people, but to show compassion for the enlightenment of others. Our Guru Maharaj wrote this too. Our purpose is not to defeat people. Our purpose is to enlighten people. Our motive is not to win. Our motive is to be instruments of compassion. Have that spirit, and Krishna will always be with you. And when Krishna's with us, there's nothing to fear from anyone. Hare Krishna. What is definition of higher taste? How to get higher taste? If you want to taste gulab jamun, what do you do? Do you chemically analyze it? Do you look at it under a microscope from all different directions? Do you discuss the recipe? Or do you eat it? What would you do? Haribo. So if we want to get the higher taste, we have to simply experience Krishna. The higher taste comes through practice. We hear theoretically. If we hear from the right source and get the right direction, then we know what to do. But in order to realize it and taste it, we must apply that knowledge to our life. We must practice. Vishayavanivartante niraharasya dehena rasavarajamarasopyasya param dristva nivartate. One can only give up the lower activities of sensual, mental enjoyment if one experiences the higher taste. Otherwise, it's simply repression is superficial. Some degree of repression must be there. That is tapasya. But real repression is not simply saying no to Maya. It's simultaneously saying no to Maya and yes to Krishna. The same senses that have the tendency for many, many materialistic, immoral things, if those same senses are just engaged in Krishna's service, dynamically, you want to see something beautiful, you can go to the Bollywood movies and see all these actresses. But what do you get out of it? You're just disturbed. You just get disturbed. Or you could come to the temple and see Radha Gopinath, and you'll be happy. Your eyes will give you pleasure. Through your eyes, your soul will rejoice. Yes? You want to eat something? You can go down the street and eat this, what is it called? Pan. Yes? And it tastes good. I don't know, I never tasted it, but it may taste good. Radha Gopinath ki jai. See, as soon as we talk about seeing them, they appear. Yes, so you can go down the block and eat pan, or you can come to Prerna and eat Mahaprasad. What is the difference? One is the higher taste and one is the lower taste. So by practicing Krishna consciousness, by applying our mind and senses to Krishna consciousness, and at the same time restraining it from the lower tendencies, we gradually become purified, and as we become purified, we experience the higher taste. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matpara. Krishna says we must restrain our senses from our lower tendencies, but simultaneously, we actively, dynamically engage our senses in the service of the Lord, contact with Krishna, who's the reservoir of all pleasure. Then we experience the higher taste of real pleasure. Is there any other questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Maharajji. Oh yeah.
Haribo, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. This whole world is a creation of Krishna only. And our religion is the oldest religion. Christianity, Muslim religion, all comes after Hinduism. But today we see that the population of all Christians and Muslim people is much more than Hindus. Then why so? Our religion was the oldest. Sometimes some friends ask such questions to us. So what can we tell them?
Because Hindus have become lazy. Srila Prabhupada challenged every one of you when he came. Bharata bhumite hoila manusya janma jara janma sarataka kari karapara upakara. Prabhupada challenged the Indians so many times. Yes, Shamsundar Prabhu, Guru Das Prabhu. That you're born in India, the land of Krishna, the land of Ram. You've been given the highest philosophy, the highest spiritual culture, the highest spiritual science. And you're watching cricket on television. And you're worried about, which Bollywood movie actor is dating which actress. Or you're just squirming for economic development. Yes? Srila Prabhupada said, I am one Indian. And I have taken the message of Krishna to the world, and millions of people have accepted. Prabhupada said, it is the duty of every Indian person to understand their true religion as it is, to practice it, and to enlighten the world with it. Yes? Christians and Muslims and all these people, they're preaching all over the place. And we're watching cricket and Bollywood movies. Huh? And unfortunately, most Hindus don't even know what a Hindu is. If you ask somebody, what is a Hindu? Means, what is your answer? What is a Hindu? Speak.
The one who truly follows the teachings of Bhagavad Gita.
Very good. So now practice the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and distribute the glories of Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada, one man, he had tens and millions of Bhagavad Gitas distributed all over the world in every major language. One man. And Prabhupada just kept saying, especially to the youth of India, if all of you will just take up this mission of compassion, we could make so many millions and millions and tens and millions of people all over the world Krishna conscious? Because Krishna consciousness is what everyone is looking for. So many people, they want something more than a vague conception of a God who's an old man, we don't know who he is, we don't know what he does. People want to understand, why am I suffering? Why is somebody born in one situation? What is karma? What is reincarnation? Who is God? What is the abode of the Lord? The Vedic scriptures teach all of these things scientifically and with great, prolific, philosophical understanding. The world is longing for it. And there are hundreds of millions of people in the world who will accept it, but we have to turn the television off and give it to, and give the time to offer it to them. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
So are we a part of the solution or are we a part of the problem? We should be dynamic. Just like our Nityananda, our Gauranga Prabhu, our Gaur Gopal and Braj Bihari. These devotees, they're students like you. But they're making thousands and thousands of people Krishna conscious. Simply because they have that inspiration. And we have Grihastha people like Murlidhar and Sridhama who are wives with children and everything like that, and occupations, Krishna Chandra, and they're affecting so many hundreds and hundreds of people's hearts, individually and collectively. If we're actually compassionate, we don't want to see people die without Krishna. Prabhupada explained, if we could make a Christian a better Christian, that is our success. We're not sectarian. No one in the human life should die without developing love of God. And we have such a glorious, beautiful, complete understanding of God. Let's give our lives, through our occupation, through our talents, to enlighten people's lives. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure.
I am a student of science. Can you read it? Because it's not very easy.
I believe in science still.
Achha.
I believe in it still. I don't get proper theory.
Without these spectacles, it looks like it's written in Sanskrit. I am a student of science. I believe in science. Still, I do not get proper theory for explanation of life and its aim. How will you explain life and its aim scientifically? People are trying to explain behavior of living by mathematical model. Do you think, is it possible? Please explain why. Who has asked this question? Can you send microphone to him? What is your definition of science?
It's a logical way of thinking, which uses the theory, prediction,
Say,
observation, and the result.
say again, I didn't hear.
It is a logical way of thinking in which we predict, in which we put forth the theory, we predict, we observe and you get a result.
Krishna consciousness can be understood as a science by your definition. First of all, a logical thesis. Yes? The thesis of Bhagavad Gita is you're not this body, you're the eternal soul. Is it logical? Dehinosmin yatha dehe komaram yovaram jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyate. Krishna explains it very scientifically. From boyhood to youth to old age, we're the same person. Although the body and the mind are going through so many changes, we remain the same person. And at the time of death, the soul enters into another body according to our desires and our experiences in life. Are you your hand, or is it your hand?
Sorry?
Yes. Is it my hand or I hand?
It's my hand.
My mouth or I mouth?
It's my mouth.
Hare Krishna. So who is the proprietor? Is it I body or my body?
It's my body.
What's the difference between the living body and the dead body?
Soul.
Consciousness.
What do you call
Consciousness.
Okay.
And what the scriptures tell us and what the great realized souls tell us is the soul is the source of consciousness. There's no material explanation that has substance to prove consciousness. How the consciousness is manifesting through matter can be explained. But what is the source of consciousness? If we knew, we could make a dead body alive again. Yes? So is it not logical that we are the soul rather than the body?
Yeah.
Now, how to realize the soul? Is it not logical that the person who created the entire creation has the power to come down and explain how he has done it and why? Is that logical?
Yes.
Is it more logical to consider that everything comes from nothing or everything comes from something? Which is more logical?
Comes from something.
Have we ever seen anything that has come from nothing?
No.
So why should we think ultimately everything comes from nothing? There's no evidence. It's logical that everything comes from something, and that something is God. God is a logical thesis. Yes? It's scientific. The presence of the soul is logical. And then we have a practice, which is called sadhana. Sadhana means the practice by which we realize and directly experience the presence of the soul and our relationship with God. That's what spiritual practice is about. We chant the holy names, we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, we perform seva, we engage in moral, ethical activities, we try to transform our greedy, proud nature into a nature of humility and service. And through this process, we taste God, we see God, we experience God, we love God. And it happens to be that so many great personalities in all religions and all traditions throughout the world have said the same thing. Are all these great saints liars? When they're talking about their vision of God, their love of God, the most compassionate people who have ever lived on earth historically, are they all liars? They're not taking anything for themselves? Doesn't it make sense? Isn't it logical that what they're seeing, what they're tasting is real? And they're giving their lives. They're willing to die. They're willing to suffer gladly so that we could taste what they're tasting. Is it not logical? Yes, there is a theory that we are not this body, we are the eternal soul, and there is a supreme soul who is the cause of all causes. It's logical. It's reasonable. It's philosophical. It's scientific. And there is a path to prove it within your own heart. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is the greatest, most important of all sciences. Do you agree?
Sir, what about the mathematical model? Do you believe it?
Huh?
What the mathematical model for the explaining behavior? Do you believe it?
I am not a mathematician. In fact, I won't tell you my grades in math when I was a student. I used to change my report card when I'd show it to my mother. And after she'd sign it, I'd change it back. But Einstein was a good mathematician. He was unanimously accepted as a very great mathematician. And his conclusion after a whole lifetime of mathematical investigation was that there is no way that the universe mathematically could be existing the way it is unless there is a supreme brain behind it. That is God. So it's easier for me to accept Einstein's mathematical genius than to try to be a mathematician myself and figure it out. And we have some nice devotees like Sadaputta who have explained and proved the existence of the Lord in very wonderful ways through mathematical presentations. And if you read some of their books, I think you will be struck with wonder.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
But Prabhupada explains that in spiritual mathematics, 1 + 1 is 1 and 1 - 1 is 1. Yes, because Krishna is always the cause of all causes. He's the source of everything. Prabhupada said, without Krishna, everything that you do is like zero. If you have 1,000 zeros, if you add it together, if you multiply it together, it's all zero. But if you put a 1 in front, then everything that follows the 0 increases the value. Krishna is that 1. When we add Krishna to our life, everything we do, whether we're engineers or whether we're doctors or whether we're businessmen or whether we're brahmacharis or whether we're sannyasis, whatever we do has eternal value, unlimited value, if it's done in consciousness of our relationship with the One, with Krishna. So that much mathematics I like very much. This is also Sanskrit.
Swamiji,
Yes, yes.
I would like to know what happens to us after the death. May I repeat the question?
Yes.
What happens to us after the death?
Krishna tells in Gita, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram. This means whatever our conscious state is at the time of death, that will determine the destination of the soul. The soul is eternal. There are 8,400,000 species of life, according to the Padma Purana. And all of those species are simply different karmic facilities for the soul to enjoy or suffer. Now, the soul is according to a natural order, evolving through the lower species. Then it comes to the human life. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. In the human life, we have been given a developed sense of reasoning and intelligence. We have the power to question. The animals do not question their existence. They're just trying to resolve the problems of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. You don't see any. How many rats are in Bombay? There's so many rats, but you don't see hundreds of rats coming to the Prerna festival. One reason is there's no female rats here. So. But rats can't, they're just looking for something to eat and something to have sex with and trying to defend themselves so they don't get killed. Yes? That's what rat life is about. I've been watching them. They don't come here to listen because they have no capacity to question their existence. Philosophy is meant for humans. Religion is meant for humans. And our human life begins when we really apply our developed consciousness to these principles. So if a human being uses our developed consciousness to cultivate God, then we're actually making the greatest value. Every moment of human life is more valuable than all the money in the world if in that moment we can come closer to God. That's our choice. And the scriptures explain whatever we are most absorbed in our life will determine the last thought at the time of death. Even if you're in a coma, still, you may not be able to externally communicate with people in this world, but in any state, at the time of death, whatever you are most absorbed in life will come to you as the final thought before death. And according to that thought, that will determine the destination of the soul. If you're just absorbed in eating and eating and eating and eating, then in your next birth you may become an elephant, where you can just eat all day long and never get indigestion. If you're just absorbed in sex life, then you can become a pigeon. Pigeons can have sex 60, 70 times a day and still be enthusiastic. Humans aren't good at those things. If you're really macho man, yes, I can. Then you can become a tiger or a dog. Yes, or a lion. Or if you're a woman who likes, oh, I'm so beautiful, you can become a peacock. Yes? Or a cockroach. Because female cockroaches really think they're beautiful. I've watched them. And every male cockroach will confirm what I'm saying. So depending on what we absorb our consciousness in at the time, during our life, that is going to determine where the soul goes. And why are people born in suffering conditions? Why are people born in nice conditions? That's also due to karma. For every action, there's an equal corresponding reaction. Everything we do determines what we're going to get in the future. So our desires, our absorption, and our activities determine where the soul is going to go, whether it's elevated to a higher human plane or whether it's degraded to the lower species. But then Krishna tells us, Antakale chamameva smaran bhaktva kalevaram. One who remembers me at the time of death will attain me without fail. If our prominent consciousness in life is to be absorbed in Krishna, then Krishna promises we will be with Krishna. Man manabhava mad bhakto madhyajim nam namaskuru mam e vaishyashi shatyam te pratijani priyoshime. Krishna says, always think of me. Become my devotee. Worship me. Offer your homage to me. In this way you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my dear friend. And Krishna appears again as Lord Chaitanya and tells us the easiest, most accessible way for everyone to remember Krishna. It doesn't matter what nationality, it doesn't matter what sex or what educational bracket or what income bracket or what caste you're in. These are all superficial designations. Everyone is a spirit soul, and everyone can attain the supreme perfection by simply absorbing ourselves with Krishna, by chanting his holy names. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
How can we develop the hunger for the spiritual matters so that we can digest it well and desire to get more and more?
Because the taste is so sweet, if we just keep taking it, the hunger will naturally grow. And we also have to stop eating junk food. Matirana Krishne paratashvato vamitope vidyeti krihavratanam madanta gobira vishatam patamishram puna punashcharavatachaраvananam. If we want to develop the taste for Krishna consciousness, two things are required. One, to seek that taste. To seek hearing Hari Katha rather than Gramya Katha. To seek Hari Kirtan rather than Bollywood, what are they, ghazal? Is that what it's called, ghazal? Ghazal. That means cinema song. So we have to cultivate that hunger. If we fill our belly with all kinds of junk food, we're not going to have appetite for nutritious food. Yes? So if we keep chewing that which we've already been chewed, Prahlad Maharaj said, people in this world are just chewing what they've already been chewing, and they spit it out and they pick it up and they chew it and they spit it out and they pick it up and they chew it and they spit it out and they pick it up and they chew it, birth after birth after birth. That's what sense enjoyment is about. How many times have we had sensual experiences, and yet we make such a big deal about it? Now, in a cultured society, they don't make any big deal about these sensory things. They make a big deal about morality, ethics, and spiritual enlightenment. Yes? This is culture. But when there's a lack of culture, then people make a big deal about looking beautiful and being fashionable and eating this and owning this and all of this stuff. Yes? But it's chewing the chewed. We've had all these experiences in every birth, and we're still looking for it again. But if we Krishnaize everything, if we somehow or other restrain our senses from all of these distractions as far as possible and fix our mind on that which is really nutritious, then naturally our hunger grows. If you associate with people who have hunger, you will become hungry for Krishna. That is the most important thing. If you associate with people who are hungry for Krishna, you will naturally become hungry for Krishna. Guru Das and Shyam Sundar, I won't tell you what they were doing when they were living in Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco, California in the early 1960s, but they met Prabhupada. And just by associating with Srila Prabhupada, they became hungry for Krishna. Yes? They became hungry for Krishna, thirsty for Krishna. They were dying for Krishna. They were doing anything for Krishna. But Prabhupada taught them no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, no meat eating, chant the holy names, hear Srimad Bhagavatam. And by Prabhupada's inspiration, they were doing all these things and becoming hungrier and hungrier for Krishna. So that is the process. Proper association and following the inspiration of that association. Does that answer your question? Hare Krishna. What is the most humorous part of life? How to get rid of depression. One time Srila Prabhupada was absorbed in deep, grave contemplation. He was sitting. His eyebrows were very much intense, very grave, silent. And a devotee asked, Prabhupada, what are you thinking about? Would you ask Prabhupada that question? They asked, what are you thinking about, Prabhupada? And Prabhupada said, I am simply meditating on what Mother Yashoda put in Krishna's lunchbox today. Krishna is the supreme, most humorous personality. The most humorous part of life is understanding the humor of Krishna. He's the ultimate supreme source of everything. He's the supreme source of humor. From a positive side, the most humorous part of life is understanding the humor of Krishna, who is the source of all humor. Even the greatest comedian, his humor is only an infinitesimal part and parcel of a parcel of a parcel of a part of a part of a part of a perverted reflection of Krishna's humor. And he could make us laugh so much. How much Krishna can make us laugh. And the most depressing thing is people are suffering because they've forgotten Krishna. They've forgotten Krishna's sweetness, Krishna's humor, and Krishna's love. That is the source of all depression. So Prabhupada said, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Is there any other questions?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, sir.
It said that service to God. So how to do it in such a vast world?
Can you say again, please?
It said that it
Yes, yes, yes.
to service to humanity is service to God. So how to perform it in such a vast world?
In such a vast world, we all can achieve perfection by doing what we can do. Recently, we were at Rameshwaram in South India. We also went to a place called Durbashan, and that is where Nala, the son of Vishwakarma, organized the building of the bridge across the Indian Ocean to Sri Lanka. And there is a beautiful story how Hanumanji and the Vanara soldiers, they were bringing gigantic boulders of stone and making it float in the water. Sometimes even ripping off the peaks of huge Himalayan mountains and putting them in the water. And when there was a little squirrel, and what the squirrel was doing is he was jumping in the water, getting his whole body wet. Then he'd roll around in the sand. Then he'd jump onto one of the rocks, and he'd roll in the sand, and the sand would come off his body into the rocks. Yes? And Ramchandra told Hanuman, he's doing as much as you. He's putting pebbles of sand, and you're taking mountain peaks. But he's doing the best he can do, and you're doing the best you can do. Yes?
Yes.
So yes, it is a vast world. But we have the chance, all of us, to do what we could do. Whether it's big or little. If we please Krishna by our effort, our life is perfect. Krishna doesn't simply see the quantity. Krishna sees the quality. We try to do whatever quantity we can do, but the quality of how we do it determines how God is pleased with us and how we're going to affect the world. So if we're simply sincere, we could make a difference. We may all be little people with little capacity, but it is one of the most beautiful miracles of creation. How, if we please Krishna, how he can empower us to do things so far beyond our own capacity. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayati kirim yat kripatamaham bande Paramananda Madhava. By the mercy of Guru and Krishna, a lame man can cross mountains, a dumb man can speak, and a blind man can see the stars in the sky. We are not the doers. We're just instruments. Srila Prabhupada was 70 years old on the Jaladuta, a cargo ship. Over 30 days he was at sea going from Calcutta, the King George dockyards, to New York City. And on the way he had several heart attacks, seasickness. He had no money, 40 rupees. And he didn't know anybody to where he was going. But he prayed. He prayed, Krishna, I don't know how to speak to these people. I don't think Prabhupada ever met an American. And he was going to an America. And he didn't know anybody. He didn't even know if anyone was going to be waiting for him there. He prayed, Krishna, just make me your puppet. Make me dance as you want me to dance. And because he was willing to be the puppet of God's grace, look at what the Lord did through him. Yes? The power of God is great. However small we are, however unqualified we are, if we simply humble ourselves and try to purify our hearts, God could do great things through any of us. But as soon as there's false pride, thinking I'm the doer, then it's all stopped. Yes? But if we're just humble instruments, what God could do through any of us. And if we all work together, how much we can enlighten society and make an impact. And that is a great thing. Does that answer your question?
Yes, bro.
It is a vast world, but Krishna's mercy is infinitely more vast than this entire universe. And if we can access that individually and collectively, we could do wonderful things for humanity.